Can you believe Disney and Universal have been feuding long before the theme parks? The two have been battling since the very beginning of the Walt Disney Company. In 1927, Universal Pictures wanted to get into the cartoon business and requested that the Disney studios produce a brand new character. This character would be Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and the contract would be signed on March 4th, 1927 for 26 cartoons. The success of Oswald the Rabbit would help both Universal and the Disney studio grow, expanding both of their cartoon businesses. For example, the Walt Disney Studio grew by 20 workers. Winkler, the cartoon distributor, would sign another contract in February 1928 to guarantee 3 more years of Oswald cartoons for Universal. However, Charles Mintz, who was in charge of Winkler Pictures, began to go behind the back of Walt Disney. He started to steal the team of Walt Disney, taking his animators and hiring them to work for him, which made Walt look for new distributors. However, he could not get a new contract elsewhere. Mintz would take Oswald from underneath Disney and open his own studio to produce Oswald cartoons. Oswald cartoons would have the tagline, "A Walt Disney creation made by Winkler Productions for Universal." Universal would then take full control of Oswald cartoons in 1929. Universal then would utilize other producers and animators to work on it. Because of being betrayed by Mintz and then Universal taking ownership of Oswald the Rabbit, Walt began to distrust everyone in Hollywood and New York. He believed that they were all out to get him, especially after losing his animators. The only animator Disney was able to keep would be Ub Iwerks. This would lead to Disney eventually developing Mickey Mouse. Also, Disney would get the rights back for Oswald the Rabbit when they would trade the contract of Al Michaels to NBC Universal for the rights to the character. After the Oswald the Rabbit moment, the two companies would compete with one another across various different platforms. For years after Oswald the Rabbit debacle, the two companies would compete in the cartoon market. However, Disney would have a stronghold in the area. Essentially, Universal would not have another hit cartoon until the late 1980s, when An American Tail and The Land Before Time were released. Until that moment, Disney really dominated the market for cartoon movies like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Dumbo, and many others. The Walt Disney Company really had a stronghold on the world of animation movies. It would not be until Universal started partnering with Amblin Entertainment that they would become a bigger competitor. This partnership helped grow in the world of animation and would be the first step in the creation of DreamWorks Animation. DreamWorks Animation was not owned by Universal until 2016, when they would purchase it for over $3 billion. This provided Universal with a number of new film opportunities, as well as giving them an animated catalog of popular movies that rivaled Disney, which would also be utilized for their streaming service and theme parks. In the world of movies, however, Disney and Universal would battle. Universal is famous for their monster movies, which they essentially brought into the mainstream. From the 1930s to 1950s, their horror films would grow in popularity. Universal would really lean into films for adults and produce some amazing content, something that Disney did not really utilize as they were more focused on being an animation studio. This meant their cartoon works would have to go up against live-action feature-length films from Universal. In 1960, Spartacus by Universal would be the highest-grossing film, and Swiss Family Robinson would be fourth. The competition would explode when Disney CEO Ron Miller built Touchstone Pictures, an opportunity to get into more adult films. During the 80s through the 90s time period, Disney tried to create unique and different films with unique technology like that of Tron, where Universal was coming up with unique films like Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, and others. Both film producers would try to leverage their success with sequels. As time went on, these two companies would battle for movie rights and expansion. For example, Disney acquiring Marvel and Star Wars, providing them with more content, as Universal is growing their film library of Jaws, Fast and Furious, and Jurassic World. From the mid-80s until this day, we've seen Disney and Universal battle for the big screen. Almost every year you can see either a Universal or Disney film finishing in the top 5 in revenue, even sometimes more than one being highlighted. Recently, they've begun to battle for the small screen too. Universal Television would produce shows like Knight Rider, The Incredible Hulk, and Miami Vice under their parent company MCA. This would be some of their biggest television hits during the 70s. In the 90s and 2000s, they would produce shows like Law & Order and Battlestar Galactica. Eventually, Universal would be merged with NBC, which meant even more content. This gave them the likes of The Office, Parks and Rec, and SNL. The two companies created an opportunity for great content. Disney would mainly focus on children's television programming in the early days, like that of the Mickey Mouse Club. However, they would also battle on cable throughout the 80s and 90s. First and foremost, they would create their own children's cable station on the Disney Channel, which became a premium service channel and gained tons of popularity among families. Through the partnership and eventually acquisition of ABC, they would also become a leader in content. Today we see both NBC and ABC as news leaders and content drivers. The competition even goes as far as sports. ABC Sports and ESPN have battled with NBC Sport Network over the years for rights to leagues and teams. Even the battle in the world of streaming. Peacock streaming with the content of Universal, NBC, WWE, and DreamWorks have offered viewers a unique opportunity to get some of their favorite shows. Whereas Disney Plus has been a content machine. They focus mainly on the creation of new shows based on leveraging their IPs. Though they would also utilize their large catalog as well, and a main reason for the Disney acquisition of Fox. The final area we will look at is the realm of theme parks and entertainment. Universal Studios Hollywood would beat Walt Disney in the form of California Entertainment, offering tours of studios. However, it would not be the theme park we know today. It essentially would be a look at Universal City and allow guests to step into their favorite movies. It did not officially become a theme park until E.T. Adventure would open as the park's first ride in 1991, which kicked off the additions of the Wizarding World, Jurassic Park, and now Super Nintendo World. Comparably, Disneyland opened as a theme park on July 17, 1955, becoming the first true theme park in the United States. Though there were other amusement parks prior to Disneyland, this became the first true themed entertainment park in the United States. Developed by Walt Disney, he wanted to bring about something that had never been seen before, a place where families could come together and enjoy themselves. Walt had a similar concept of a tourist attraction where you could entertain fans with a mix of rides and movie magic. However, he realized this area would be too small and eventually would move it to Anaheim, where he could get cheaper land. Disneyland would continue to change and develop long after Walt to the theme park we know today with Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, and a second park. While Disneyland and Universal Hollywood are competitors, they aren't as big of competitors as Disney World and Universal Orlando. After the success of Disneyland, Walt Disney looked for a new area for a bigger, more controlled park and entertainment. This is when Walt came across the Orlando, Florida area. This was in part of the large amount of areas that could be purchased in secret, paired with the success of Cypress Gardens in Winter Haven. Walt wanted to build something different. It would be known as his Florida Project, which included Magic Kingdom and Epcot, which was supposed to be a high-tech community. The Walt Disney Company would end up with over 25,000 acres of land in Central Florida. Walt Disney World would grow into 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, 32 resorts, and a shopping district. The theme park battle between Universal and Disney in Florida would begin during the building of Disney MGM Studios and Universal Studios Orlando. Michael Eisner, the then CEO of Disney in the mid-1980s, caught wind that Universal was planning a theme park and production studio in the Orlando area. To beat Universal, Disney began construction in 1987 and would beat Universal to the market with the first ever theme park and TV film studio all in one place in Florida. Disney MGM Studios, as it would be known, would open on May 1st, 1989. Eisner originally got the idea for this type of park from Universal. When Universal originally came to Paramount asking about a partnership for a Florida theme park, Eisner was an executive at Paramount at the time. When the park did open, it was not fully complete and construction was still continuing, including that of the building of Star Tours. Many guests would be confused when entering the park as it wasn't full and only took up part of the day. Disney did also bring a majority of their animation studio to Florida at the time, which would create the likes of Lilo and Stitch, Brother Bear, Mulan, and many others. The park would also have a studio tram tour, have several filming locations, and also host a series of live events including wrestling. Essentially, the park took you into your favorite movies and shows. Universal Orlando began development on December 9, 1986, when the park would be announced by parent company MCA. The goal of the park was a joint venture between Universal and the Blackstone Group. The original Universal Studios Florida would first open on June 7, 1990. The concept of the park was to make guests feel like they were on a movie set, where they would learn about the magic of movies, TV, and cartoons, as well as have a chance to ride some amazing attractions. Universal would lean into its great movie properties to build attractions related to Back to the Future, King Kong, and E.T. However, the park would first open with more experiences with rides like Murder, She Wrote, The Hitchcock Show, Ghostbusters, and E.T. Adventure. Universal would continue to develop into a vacation destination by increasing their studio to include Nickelodeon and more rides throughout the park. They would then build their second park, Islands of Adventure, on May 28, 1999. This park would include the likes of Marvel, Jurassic Park, old Universal cartoons, Dr. Seuss, and mythology. The war in Florida would continue throughout the years, with both Disney and Universal expanding. Universal is no longer just a few theme parks. It now includes a large shopping district and dining with City Walk, a water park with Volcano Bay, and a new theme park called Epic Universe coming in 2025. The main difference between Disney and Universal parks for years was that Universal focused more on adults and teenagers, whereas Disney focused on kids. A prime example of this can be seen in the rides. Universal focused more on thrill rides, where Disney focused more on family rides. Another example of this is their extra ticketed events like that of the famous Halloween Horror Nights versus Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. Both Disney and Universal theme parks have hit back with one another over the years, whether that is a new ride, park, or resort. As you can tell, the Walt Disney Company and NBC Universal have both grown, developed, and changed over the years. Their feud has only grown over the years, with both now being large public traded companies. Did you know about this feud? Thanks for watching the video. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Believable truths?